Oh, this is gonna be my last recording for the night. Read chapter 3 of Dash Dreams by Landon. And I believe the chapter name is Friends and Foes. Scootaloo galloped down the small trail, her wings too tired to carry her further. She felt useless. Rainbow Dash blew her off. Not that I should have expected any different, she thought as a plane of rejection sank in. Her eyes burned from the now empty supply of tears. She didn't care. She just ran, farther than she had ever gone before, down the road, out of Ponyville, as fast as her legs could carry her. Scootaloo just wanted to get away from her, away from every pony she had relied on. There was no help now. She lowered her head and ran on, watching her hooves strike the ground with each step, her line lost in spiraling thought. Suddenly, she found herself accelerating toward the ground with somebody else she had unwillingly drove herself into at full speed. A small filly tumbled over the dirt road, the contents of her bag spilling in the process. She just lay there for a moment as her mind came back to her and she began to regain control of what happened. For a moment, she thought about just staying there, laying there for a long while she thought. This was quickly put aside as she heard the other pony lift herself up. Um, uh, sorry about that, she managed to say as she approached the stranger, not looking up to see exactly who it was. It's okay, kiddo. There's only one. That's one way to stop, I guess, a mare's voice replied, shockingly calm for having been tossed to the ground. Scootaloo looked up to see a unicorn with strange goggles and a bright mane made of different blues. She was smiling down at the frustrated filly Pegasus. She turned her head and levitated Scootaloo's personal items into the small satchel and presented it to her. Thanks, I didn't mean to run into you like that. I was just... Never mind, she stammered. No problem. I should have just... well, no. Yeah, I guess it was your fault, huh? Bummer, she grinned with a statement. Scootaloo was unsure if she was serious or not. Okay then, I'd better just get going. She turned to leave the unicorn and continued down the path, begging Celestia the mare would just let her go. Whoa, whoa, kid. Let's back up a little bit, the unicorn called out. Called it, unicorn thought to herself. Oh, called it, Scootaloo thought to herself before returning to the strange pony. So what, you just tackle me and take off, the unicorn began. Dang, kid, I thought you were more of a stallion thing around me. She smiled wildly at her own remark. Scootaloo didn't get it, and honestly, I didn't get it either. What? Never mind, I just have to go. Oh, really? You need to go somewhere. Somewhere? Really? The mare pressed on. Aren't you a bit young to be... Aren't you a bit young to be wandering around alone? Yes I am. Look, I just have to get away. I don't care where I'm going, but I can't stay here. Better? Yep. Mind if I tag along then? She took pace behind the orange-yellow filly. Sure, I guess. Awesome. Name's... Uh... Awesome. Name's Vinyl. How about you? Scootaloo, she replied quickly. To her surprise, Vinyl stopped asking questions with that. Instead, she simply marched on behind the Pegasus, who had just been doing what she had just been doing before, bobbing her head to a beat Scootaloo couldn't hear. They made their way down the road for some time in complete silence, Scootaloo lost in her thoughts, and Vinyl, well, being Vinyl. As the sun was beginning to set, this story just got 20% cooler. I'm sorry, dude. I just had to say it. I'm sorry, Vince, but the once you bring Vinyl into something, it's just cooler. Unless it's a very gory fic and Vinyl is involved, then it becomes not so much cooler. As the sun was beginning to set, and the silence was finally broken, being in the middle of the forest, Scootaloo Vinyl wasn't familiar with. Vinyl veered off the road suddenly and began down a small path into the trees. Hey, wait, where are you going? She asked as she galloped to catch the recently added traveling companion. Camp, kid, it's getting So you're just gonna walk off the path and just camp? Man. She continued to follow the small winding path. Eventually, they made their way to an opening past the trees, still surrounded on all sides. The white unicorn levitated a large weathered bag from a nearby tree and said, "And you have this. I keep a few things out here for quick stops. Lucky us, huh?" Her grin made Scootaloo question her sanity for a moment or two before approaching and watching as she pulled out the bag's contents. Inside was a wrap tent, a few blankets, some pans, and various small items Scootaloo didn't recognize. I hope those aren't what I think they are. The unicorn began lifting the tent into place and had the filly make a fire pit with some nearby rocks. Scootaloo didn't understand it at this point. This unicorn was weirder than Pinkie Pie. That's not that weird. Yeah, I'm never thinking of Pinkie Pie are the same. A short while later, they found themselves sitting around a small fire in an oddly shaped fire pit with a tent set up a few feet away. Vina was watching the sky turn to night with fascination. It never got old for her to watch the daylight fade into so many small points above herself. Despite the sudden chill of the night air washing over them, Scootaloo was watching the fire curiously. Lost once again in thoughts of Rainbow Dash, neither felt the need to speak. Scootaloo liked that about this new mare. She didn't push Scootaloo to do anything she didn't want to do, or scold her for having traveled so far away. She had said a word. She had said a word about it since their encounter. It was strangely comforting, and for the first time today, Scootaloo felt accepted. Rainbow Dash was walking casually through the town proper in Ponyville on her way to Twilight's when she was suddenly tossed off course by two thuds in her sides. She stumbled as they cascaded to the ground. At her hooves were the familiar shapes of Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle. "What's with you guys and all and always crashing into ponies? What's with you, Rainbow Dash, and crashing into ponies?" she asked, slightly amused at the Crusader's seemingly preferred stopping method. Sorry, Rainbow Dash, we're just in a hurry. We gotta find Scootaloo so we can get crusading. She didn't come over this morning for breakfast. We have to look for her," Sweetie Belle added. "She always comes over for breakfast." "Wait, why is she always eating breakfast with you? Don't she eat at home?" "Guess my food's better." Sweetie Belle, I've seen you cook it. Oh, that's funny. Landon, you are a genius. Apple Bloom put his hoof to her chin. "Have you checked your little clubhouse?" Rainbow Dash suggested flatly. "Oh yeah." Apple Bloom grabbed Sweetie Belle and took off again, much to her amusement of Rainbow Dash, who was able to continue her walk not long after her memory of the previous day came back into focus. She remembered how upset Scootaloo had been before the audition. Dash thought for a moment and frowned. She had really hurt her feelings yesterday. Better go apologize, she thought to herself before casually redirecting and heading in the direction the two Crusaders had disappeared to in a steady place. She arrived at the headquarters shortly after, deep in Sweet Apple Acres. She heard a shout come from behind and ran up the ramp into the small room. Inside, Sweetie Belle was levitating a piece of paper in front of her. Apple Bloom was looking through the various items scattered throughout the room with determination. "What's going on?" Dash asked with a slight worry in her voice. "She's gone," the unicorn choked out. "She left Ponyville. Oh, snaps." She levitated the note in front of the older pony. What do you mean?" "Oh." She read over the note and presented it to her. The writing was messy and rushed, but she could make out well enough. Dash's heart sank and she read on. Scootaloo had set out to her own previous day because she blew off for the Wonderboats. "We have to find her," Sweetie Belle called out with a new determination. "Yeah, we're her friends. We gotta do something," Apple Bloom ended. Cutie markers. Missing persons. Missing persons report. Cutie Mark Crusader Friend Finders. Sounds like a dating service. They cried in unison before flashing Dash a salute. "Cutie Mark Crusaders awaiting orders," the young Earth Pony called out. Dash rose before them. "Listen, girls, it's cool that you want to help and all, but this is something I've got to do. Go let your sisters know what happened. Tell them I'll be back in a few days." She spread her wings and took off high into the sky to look for the lost filly. It would be difficult without a trail. That's his child, dude. But she was confident in her abilities. On a nearby cloud sat a quiet observer to the scene, without a word through the sky, at high altitude, unseen by those below. Back in the Crusaders' clubhouse, the two fillies watched Dash disappear. So where do we start? Applebloom asked the confused unicorn. But she said not to help her. No, she said to tell her sisters what happened. We can't just leave Scooby all alone. Now we, now you go get the some, go get us some clues. With that, the two young crusaders ran out of the clubhouse and set a new plan in motion and to save their friend. This is turning to be an Indiana Jones movie. Landing back in the front of the cloud house, Rainbow Dash made quick work gathering enough bits to last her stay, as well as a map of the surrounding area. Rushing out, there was a knock on her door. She dropped the map, opened it cautiously, wondering who would be visiting. On the doorstep was a blue Pegasus stallion. His black mane was swept back. Before she could bring herself to ask him what he was doing here, he unfurled a massive wing and slipped out an envelope stamped with the Wonderbolt's insignia. The pale blue envelope was placed in Dash's hoof without a word. She wondered for a moment if it was even possible for them to reply so quickly, and why they would send some pony instead of just mailing it like before. She looked up from the letter to ask the Pegasus, but found herself looking into the empty sky. He had disappeared without a peep. She thought it over for a moment and dismissed it. Looking back at the neatly pressed envelope, she brought it to her mouth to tear the end open, but hesitated before she could. She thought for a moment and shut her eyes. Rainbow Dash tore the letter in half, tossing it to the ground and bolting out the door with her supplies. Good job, Rainbow Dash. That was awesome. You wrote an awesome part right there, dude. And that is the end of the chapter. So, yeah. What rule will she have? Just reading some things. I'm done. So, have a good night.